Hi, class. This is the read aloud version of the article we're using for our playlist today about Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. So, King followed Gandhi's example of nonviolent political activism. Mahatma Gandhi was an activist and civil rights leader. He helped lead the Indian independence movement, organizing peaceful protests against British rule. Gandhi inspired people all over the world, including civil rights leaders in the United States. One of the most famous people he inspired was Martin Luther King Jr. The two men never got a chance to meet. King was 19 when Gandhi died. However, King learned about Gandhi through his writing and a trip to India in 1959. He drew heavily on the Gandhian principle of nonviolence in his own civil rights activism. King wrote that while the Montgomery boycott was going on, Gandhi was the guiding light of our technique of nonviolent social change. Concept of nonviolence based in religion. Nonviolence is more than simply agreeing that you won't physically attack your enemy. Gandhi referred to his form of nonviolence as satyagraha, meaning truth force or love force. Practicing satyagraha means a person should seek truth and love. They should refuse, through nonviolent resistance, to participate in something they believe is wrong. The principle of satyagraha guided Gandhi's activism against the British Empire, helping India win its freedom in 1947. King first learned of Gandhi's concept of nonviolence when he was studying to become a minister, a Christian leader. Gandhi's ideas extended from his religion of Hinduism. As a Christian, King connected the Hindu thinker's words to those of Jesus. In the Bible, Jesus tells his followers to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. King recognized the Christian idea of love operating through the Gandhian method of nonviolence. For the first time, he later wrote, he saw that nonviolence could be a powerful weapon in the struggle for freedom. Resist violence without using violence. King was already familiar with the concept of peaceful civil disobedience. He believed in Gandhi's idea that opposed people could use truth or love as weapons, oppressed people could use truth or love as weapons in their struggle for justice. However, he didn't find a practical application for it until he became involved in the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955 and 56. At that time, the bus system in Montgomery, Alabama was segregated, and African Americans were forced to ride at the back of the bus. King and other activists organized a boycott. For over a year, African Americans across the city refused to ride on Montgomery buses. In his 1958 book, Stride Toward Freedom, King laid out the principles of nonviolence. He declared that it is possible to resist evil without resorting to violence. He also said it is possible to oppose evil itself without opposing the people committing evil. King wrote that people who practice nonviolence must be willing to suffer without fighting back, even in their heart. The nonviolent resistor not only refuses to shoot his opponent, but he also refuses to hate him. He saw nonviolence as an expression of love for all people, says Claiborne Carson, a history professor and director of the Martin Luther King Research Jr. and Education Institute at Stanford University. It's a way of reaching people and convincing them of the rightness of your cause. In 1956, the Supreme Court ruled that Montgomery's bus segregation was unconstitutional. Shortly afterward, King told a crowd in Brooklyn, New York, that Christ showed us the way, and Gandhi in India showed it could work. King wasn't the only civil rights leader who looked to Gandhi for inspiration. In the 1950s, future Congressman John Lewis studied Gandhi in nonviolence workshops. These workshops prepared Lewis for the sit-ins he and other students would later hold at lunch counters in Nashville, Tennessee. It is important to understand and feel that your attacker is as much a victim as you are, that he is a victim of the forces that have shaped and fed his anger and fury, Lewis wrote in his book, Walking in the Wind. If you can do that, you are well on your way to the nonviolent life. King's eye-opening trip to India. To better understand Gandhi's principles, King took a trip to India in 1959. He was pleasantly surprised to find that many people there had followed the nonviolent bus boycott he had helped organize. During the trip, King met with Gandhi's son, cousins, grandsons, and other relatives. He left India even more convinced of the power of nonviolent civil disobedience to effect social change. It was a marvelous thing to see the amazing results of a nonviolent campaign, King wrote after his trip. The aftermath of hatred and bitterness that usually follows a violent campaign was found nowhere in India. Today, a mutual friendship based on complete equality exists between the Indian and British people. I would say that after he returned, he was the most prominent living advocate for nonviolence, Carson says. He popularized a lot of ideas that Gandhi had. Through King's actions and leadership, these ideas spread throughout the United States and, of course, came to other parts of the world.